Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our channel, your #1 home for all things Liverpool Football Club and Premier League drama. Before we dive deep into today's story, which is absolutely massive, I need you to do me one big favor. You love Liverpool. If you want to stay updated on every transfer twist, every behind-the-scenes revelation, and every breaking headline, then make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and join this incredible community of Reds fans and football lovers. Because the next few weeks are going to be explosive and you don't want to miss a second of it. Now, let's talk about the developing saga that has rocked both Newcastle United and Liverpool's transfer window ambitions, the ongoing drama surrounding Alexander Isak. Yes, that's right, Newcastle's star striker, the Swedish international, who many have seen as the jewel in Eddie. The Howe system is right in the middle of a tug-of-war, with Liverpool circling like hawks. And if you thought this story was slowing down, think again, because it just took another dramatic twist. Alexander Isak, one of the most sought-after forwards in Europe, was left out of Newcastle's squad for the opening weekend of the Premier League. Not injured, not suspended, but deliberately excluded. That alone should tell you the gravity of the situation. Eddie Howe, Newcastle's manager, came out after their frustrating 0-0 draw with Aston Villa and openly pleaded for the situation to be resolved. And folks, if you know Eddie Howe, you'll know that he rarely wears his emotions so openly in press conferences, but here you could see the frustration, the fatigue, and almost the desperation in his voice. He said, and I quote, "I hope it's resolved quickly, because it's news around us all the time. Players have managed to shut that out and perform. We have to continue to do that. We would like a resolution." When I say we, I'm talking about myself, and I'm sure the ownership. Everyone really, the players that we have, because I think we need that clarity this season. That statement is telling. Eddie Howe doesn't just want clarity for himself, he's calling on the owners, the squad, and essentially everyone at the club to push this saga to its conclusion. And what makes this story even more fascinating, especially from a Liverpool perspective, is that this isn't just about a transfer. This is about identity, ambition, and trust. But let's pause for a moment, because I know some of you are watching and loving this Liverpool-focused coverage. But you might not have subscribed yet. Seriously, if you're here, if you're enjoying the breakdown of stories like this one, then what are you waiting for? Subscribe right now and help us grow. We're bringing you daily updates, in-depth analysis, and stories that you won't find told in this much detail anywhere else. Now, back to Alexander Isak. The striker's absence wasn't just felt on the team sheet, it was felt on the pitch. Newcastle had 16 shots against Aston Villa compared to Villa's 3. Yet, they walked away with nothing but a 0-0 draw. Why? Because they didn't have a natural striker on the field. Eddie Howe himself admitted, of course. You're going to miss someone that scored the goals that Alex has, and not just the goals, but the caliber of player that he is. That's as close as a manager can get to saying, we're not the same without him. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn. Newcastle's traveling fans made their feelings abundantly clear. Remember, these are supporters who followed the team to Villa Park, expecting to see their side put on a show in the first game of the season. Instead, they got a toothless performance up front, no Isak, and a draw that felt more like a defeat. The chants, the jeers, and the messages from the stands weren't supportive of Isak. They were against him. The fan base, or at least a large section of it, seems to have already turned. Now, what does this mean for Liverpool? Well, if Newcastle fans are no longer rallying behind their star man, it opens the door even wider for the Reds. Liverpool have already had one bid rejected, and reports suggest a second formal offer is in the works. Isak, for his part, has reportedly declared his intention never to play for Newcastle again. That's huge. Think about it. Once a player makes that kind of declaration, there's almost no way back. The trust is broken, the relationship is fractured, and every match he misses just reinforces the idea that his time in black and white is over. In Liverpool, they're watching closely. Jurgen Klopp may no longer be at the helm, but the recruitment team knows that this is a golden opportunity. Isak is not just another striker. He's tall, fast, technically gifted, and clinical in front of goal. He would add a whole new dimension to Liverpool's attacking options, linking up with the likes of Mohamed Salah, Darwin Núñez, Luis Diaz, and Cody Gakpo. Imagine the flexibility. Imagine the danger. Imagine what that means for a team trying to reclaim the Premier League title and push deep in the Champions League. But let's not forget Eddie Howe is no pushover. He doesn't want to lose Isak. In fact, his words were almost a plea to both the player and the owners. Of course, you're going to miss someone that scored the goals that Alex has. We just have to look and talk about the players that are here. Howe is trying to keep morale high, but his body language and tone showed otherwise. He knows losing Isak would be a massive blow, especially since Newcastle's project under their Saudi-backed owners is meant to be about climbing, not declining. And yet that's exactly the issue. The project demands progress, but when a player like Isak wants out, what can you do? Newcastle fans are frustrated. The manager is frustrated. The ownership, who poured money into signing Isak in the first place, is stuck between a rock and a hard place. Sell him, and you risk looking weak to the rest of the footballing world. Keep him against his will, and you risk a toxic dressing room and wasted wages. This is why Liverpool's position is so intriguing. They don't need to rush. They can let this saga continue to drag Newcastle down while preparing their next move. A structured bid, perhaps with performance-based aid, could tempt Newcastle to cash in. And let's be clear, Liverpool are not just signing a striker. They're potentially signing a game-changer for the next 5 years. Before I continue, let me remind you once again, if you're enjoying this analysis and you want to keep up with every Liverpool story, transfer update, and Premier League twist, then subscribe to our channel right now. Join us, because these stories are only going to get crazier as the transfer window ticks on. Now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. What does Alexander Isak's saga say about Newcastle? Well, in short, it reveals the growing pains of a club that's trying to transition from ambitious underdogs to established giants. They've spent big money, they've attracted stars. But they're also learning that in the modern game, money isn't always enough to keep players happy. If a bigger, more historic club like Liverpool comes calling with Champions League, nights at Anfield with a global fan base, and with the prestige of wearing the red shirt, sometimes even all the riches in the world can't compete. And for Liverpool, this is about making a statement. They've already spent big in this transfer window, but adding Isak would send shockwaves through the league. It would say, we're not just rebuilding, we're reloading. Think about it. Manchester City have Erling Haaland. Arsenal are chasing Ivan Toney. Chelsea are rebuilding with young forwards. Liverpool landing Isak would put them right back in the conversation as the most dangerous front line in England. But the real question now is this: how long can Newcastle hold out? Eddie Howe is already tired of the questions. The fans are already turning. The player has already made his stance clear. It